And those moms are still riddled with anxiety and depression. And those dads are still exhausted. And they're still chronically sick. It's the same across the entire family practice population. They've moved from medication to supplementation to natural and nutrition. But the final leap to healing for the entire community is stepping into neurology. All right, chiropractors and chiropractic students, welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. You know, the one you've been waiting way too long for, because this podcast will actually stay focused on chiropractic. Not only what it takes to get world-class clinical results for kids and families in your community, but also what it takes to build a legendary, incredible family practice that takes care of your family way beyond your dreams. I'm Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be joined by Dr. Matt Hill, Dr. Ellie Wright, Jackie Jacobowitz, and incredible guests, Chiros, associates, CAs, all these folks making massive impact around the world. We're going to cover everything: pediatric, perinatal, family practice. This is the podcast you've been waiting for, because moms and dads and families have always needed us. Now they're finally ready for us. I hope you're ready for the Family Practice Podcast. Let's go. Welcome, chiropractic students, chiropractic startups, chiropractic veterans. If you are here, you know that the number one hidden in plain sight cheat code to serving more kids and families, to blowing up your practice, is to have more certainty. And if you don't know that, let this hour training, this masterclass where you're going to get full Dr. Tony Ebel, certain and then some, that chiropractic is the one thing in the world that's going to transform these kids' lives and pull them out of the storm and keep millions from the storm. You will not find a more certain chiropractor than me. I'm coming full Raging Bull dose the whole time. And if you've missed this message to this point, that the actual key, the number one most common denominator across successful family practices that are literally thriving, killing it by every metric. You want to call it high volume? That's this. You want to call it financially successful? That's this. You want to call it ridiculously, most importantly, impactful and fulfilling? This is the path to that. And if you pull apart all those chiropractors, whether they're short, tall, this country, that country, male, female, whatever, it doesn't matter, except for this one common denominator. They have certainty literally oozing out of their eyeballs. There's no one that can move them off their rock of purpose and calling to transform as many lives as possible in their community, kids and families. Because when you have certainty, you can get out of the pain base, out of the insurance dependent model, and go all in on the pediatric, perinatal, and family model. You would find that by far above anything else. Not personality, because there is introverted chiropractors who have thriving family practices. There is extroverted, outgoing chiropractors who have certainty coming out of their eyeballs, who have thriving family practices. We're going to train you and teach you. And I'm going into science. I'm going to give you the introduction here. I'm going to give you the purpose. I'm going to give you why we're doing this, why we're bringing this to the profession, why we want to provide this free masterclass to you. And then absolutely, positively, whatever you do, make it all the way to the end. Because the next step from this is the simplest, bestest next step I've ever created myself, along with Team PX, for the profession. It's a no-brainer. And I'm calling my shot on this one. I do love baseball, so I like to call my shot. When you love what you learned today and you get done with this thing and you're going to be like, I have a lot of notes, you're also going to go, I'd love to learn even more. This neuroscience deep dive into subluxation in kids and families is going to blow your mind. This is just 1 hour. This is just 1 hour. And we've got many more hours of content we'd like to literally lock you into, step you into after this, so that your mind can continue to be blown. Because I want to kick this off. I'm saying this right now, and I want to bring in a quote from one of the most purposeful, impactful chiropractors I was ever blessed to learn from and meet, Dr. James DeMartini. Now, he's been at it for a long time, so he may not be the most common name chiropractor in the current circles or current generation of chiropractic, but he meant everything to me. So when I was in chiropractic school, I had this 14 CD set, yes, compact disc, that I bought from Dr. DeMartini, and it was the art, the science, and the philosophy of chiropractic. Now, Dr. DeMartini is very much a philosophically infused, certainty infused chiropractor. So his principles, his philosophy is really what drove his certainty. And it was so great to learn that from me, because what you're about to learn from me is I am primarily a scientifically infused chiropractor. Out of the three-legged stool that chiropractic rests so foundationally and strongly on, the art, adjusting, and technique, science, diving into subluxation and neurology like we're going to do here with this masterclass, and then the philosophy, which to me, they're all the same thing, just it's 1A, 1B, 1C. Well, I'm a science guy. But Dr. DeMartini said this. He said, if you're not on fire, no one comes around to watch you burn. So you wouldn't think of it necessarily by the title of this masterclass and by, the slides that we're about to dive into that are all based in neuroscience. We're going into my favorite research studies. We're going to talk all about birth trauma, the vagus nerve, brainstem, dysautonomia, dysregulation. We're about to get nerdier than anybody's ever got with you for an hour. But this is actually a practice growth masterclass as well. And if there's one thing I can get across to you on these intro slides and this introduction before we get, bam, here we go, science-y, and we already do the work of developing your certainty, I want you to know right out of the gates why it's so important. What are you going to get out of this? Well, especially moms and especially dads. Moms, when buying healthcare for their child, I'm going to close with this message too here today, but moms don't buy based upon your curriculum vitae, your resume, what school you went to or how many initials you have. They literally don't care about any of that. You could be loaded with initials and have gone to the greatest schools, or you could have barely made it through school and have no initials. But when you have pure, unbridled, obsessive, relentless, choosing all these adjectives intentionally, certainty, and you know that they need to know what you know, and that your practice is the best place, only place that will pull their child from the storm, tell them the truth about what's actually causing their kid to get sick in the first place, which is what we're studying on this training, and then deliver the goods clinically. That's what grows your practice. That's better than any freaking dollar discounted voucher ad. That's better than screening. That is the one thing that will grow your practice. Moms are literally like a tractor laser attraction beam. They're pulled into the practices of the chiropractors who are infused with certainty, and they repel, skip over, and never ever even considering going to the practices of chiropractors who look like, sound like, and are like everybody else and compete in the back pain, neck pain, spinal, PI, soft wave, rehab, decompression market. Moms will absolutely actively avoid that part of the marketplace, and they will go all in when they know that you've gone all in to develop your certainty. I need to bring that to you at the start of this before we get all sciencey, and I'm going to close with that as well, because this is a masterclass and a training that we wanted to bring to chiropractors so you can just sit here for an hour, take notes, and go, how did they not teach this to me in school? You're going to have the same feeling that when you then take this stuff, put it into practice, and you're communicating this, because this is also actually a communication webinar. I'm going to teach you all the different metaphors and analogies that will teach you this stuff that I use to teach them, moms and dads and other professionals in my community. And when they sit across from us on day one, you've had this, when you break down subluxation and you explain the science and you explain the philosophy and you explain how we actually get to the root cause and how important the nervous system is, how many times has a parent told you, how come nobody told me this before? You're about to have that feeling as a chiropractor. I'm about to teach you stuff that they should have taught us in school. They should have taught it to you in other certifications or pediatric diplomate programs. They didn't. Our profession is too stuck on the spine. Our profession is too stuck on back pain, too insurance dependent, and too distracted by all these other ancillary modalities. And even in the pediatric world, this isn't a primitive reflex tongue tie training. Primitive reflexes and tongue ties are compensations for subluxation. If you understood subluxation at a deeper level, like you're about to, you wouldn't be distracted with the party tricks of primitive reflexes and tongue ties and disrupted microbiomes. You would be able to know and then understand and communicate to your patients and community that all starts with subluxation, nervous system dysfunction, dysautonomia, dysregulation. Let's go. Okay. As promised, we are going to do the deepest 1 hour deep dive into the neuroscience and neurology of subluxation that anyone ever has. And we're actually going to focus it on kids and pregnant moms, because when you really develop your certainty to such a level that you can have a conversation with a parent about the neuroscience of subluxation in kids, well, then guess what? Your regular patients are going to be blown away as well, because they're coming in and thinking, oh, it's a chiropractor. We're going to focus on the spine. We're going to focus on the muscles. We're going to focus on musculoskeletal and structural and back pain and neck pain. And you're going to blow their minds with neurology as well. So I've grown my family practice, the world's largest pediatric and family practice, the most impactful one in the world, by literally building our house, our practice upon the rock. You will find that my certainty in understanding how much subluxation is destroying kids' lives is at the same level as understanding how much subluxation is getting in the way of fertility, prenatal and perinatal optimization health. And that's where the storm starts. And then that just continues into kindergarten, into grade school, into teenage years, into young adult and parents. And that parents don't need more supplements. Parents don't need to switch from keto to carnivore. Parents don't need another sunlight and infrared sauna, cold plunge, and essential oils to get their health back online. They don't need peptides and GLP-1 9ers 6-4. They need to get the frick adjusted. So this training is about the neuroscience of subluxation in the entire family population. Let's start where you probably already know we all are collectively as a country and as a world, the sickest we've ever been. Not just obesity, heart disease, cancer in the adult population. Have you ever stopped, looked around in your community when you're out at a community event, you're at Target, you're in a restaurant? Have you ever just looked at kids and seen how chronically exhausted, pale skin, bags under their eyes, constantly congested, completely disconnected, nonverbal, sensory overloaded, anxious, spectrum challenged? How many kids are so sick? I'm looking into the camera. I'm not even looking at my screen, which is right below the camera, because I know these stats. And I know that they're actually worse than this. These are CDC, found online, big meta-analysis studies, which means they're always 10 to 20 years behind. And because the perfect storm is continuing to rage in your community, your country, and mine as well, these numbers are moving in the wrong direction. Now, we'll get to the end of this training and we'll say, well, thankfully, parents are moving in our direction. They're moving towards us. And here's why. These stats tell you everything you need to know. It's the medical system that led them here. And parents, thanks to the information age, thanks to smartphones, thanks to the internet, thanks to Google, thanks to ChatGPT, thanks to Joe Rogan and the podcast world, the medical system cannot bury the truth anymore. The gig is up, the information's out, and Maha is on. We're a part of that movement, but we're a very different, clean, most important part of that movement, the ones who are actually the nervous system doctors, because that is a nervous system condition. Autism, that is a nervous system condition. ADHD, anxiety, depression, sensory. And I could have put the numbers up here for asthma, allergies, chronic ear infections, constipation, PANDAS, POTS, epilepsy, and every other autoimmune condition as well. And I can teach you that they're all subluxation-based nervous system dysfunction conditions. And that's what this slide's going to state right out of the gates. And then our deep dive into science for 30 to 40 minutes here is going to prove to you what we need to prove to the world, what we've already had proven we need to tell to the world. It's not genetic. That's what the conventional medical system and pediatrician said. Oh, don't worry, they'll grow out of it. It's just bad luck. Or their autism, we don't know what's causing it. It's genetic. There's nothing you can do about it. Next, those parents are firing the conventional pediatrician and the neurologist by the millions. Parents are literally ditching the medical system. It's the Titanic. It's sinking. Sorry, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, you're going under. And I know that sounds harsh, but you know what they've done to people? They have literally destroyed people's lives. You can look at it with the opioid epidemic. You can look at it with back surgery, where most chiropractors get stuck. Let's look at it in the pediatric and family realm. They are the number one contributing factor overall to the storm, because they are the ones that stress moms out and diagnose them with pregnancy. They are the ones that yank kids out by a forceps, vacuum, hands, and wreak havoc on their brainstem and destroy their neurological function and neurodevelopment. And then they pump them full of antibiotics and vaccines. So they are the root cause catalyst. So we need to replace them. And I'm telling you that right out of the gates, because they're also lying and gaslighting to parents and saying, oh, we don't know what's causing it. Their interventions are, and it's not just genetic. And the gig is up and parents know that. So now they're firing those people and they're moving on to the holistic world, the natural world, the integrated, biomedical, functional world. And that world, functional medicine. Hang with me, chiropractors. This is a chiropractic training. This isn't a, hey, we take this to the world. We tell ourselves the truth. We develop our certainty, build our communication and our marketing and our clinical skill sets. And then we take over the world from everybody else. Not just the conventional medicine, but I got to tell you, I'm as passionate right now about telling parents the truth and teaching it to you here today. It's not bad gut health. Yes, there's a gut-brain connection. Yes, the gut's the second brain. Yes, there's an enteric nervous system. Yes, the vagus nerve goes in there. There's a brain-gut connection. You can't change your diet and get rid of subluxation. You can't take probiotics and stimulate the parasympathetic system like an adjustment from UConn. You cannot get in a sauna or teach your kids how to do deep breathing when they're literally riddled with sympathetic dominance. The gut is essential. The nervous system controls the gut. Toxins are terrible. The nervous system controls the gut and the immune system. We're going to show you studies in about 5 slides that is where detoxification comes from. When there is subluxation, sympathetic dominance, it's a pro-inflammatory state. Gut motility shuts down. The immune system is dysregulated. And yes, we should all live toxin-free, chemical-free, vaccine-free, medication-free like our families do. But what if they didn't? What if they didn't know that truth yet? And those things need to get out. Your adjustments work 1,000,000 times better than probiotics, binders, and chelators. And the world doesn't know that. So now parents today in your community are firing the conventional pediatrician, hiring functional medicine experts. But what I want to drive home to you with this slide is the word medicine is still in their world. They still take an outside-in approach. It's just supplementation instead of medication. And I know I'm hitting you with a lot of wow factors right now. I need you certain, not just in the science of subluxation. I don't need you. The kids in your, and families in your community need you. You need to know that not only is subluxation the worst thing that could happen to a kid, not only is the actual foundational, deepest root cause that literally changes genetics, epigenetics, and disrupts gut function. So it's the answer to functional medicine improvement as well. You need to know not only that, but you need to be able to contrast what you do, because a lot of chiropractors have tried to become wellness doctors. We play holistic functional medicine providers in our practice, and we put chiropractic to the side, oftentimes unintentionally, because we avoid chemicals, we add supplements to our kids, we eat carnivore, keto, and healthy, right? Awesome. But if a child went through the storm and is subluxated and their nervous system is dysregulated, they are going to end up in chronic illness, even with the perfect diet and $3,000 a month worth of supplements. I see it all day, every day in my practice. And I know as I teach this slide, you do too. Now, you just see it more clearly. The storm of chronic illness is literally, primarily, foundationally being fueled by subluxation, nervous system dysfunction, dysregulation, dysautonomia, and all together we call that the perfect storm. So it's only us who know the deep truth. When everybody who works on nutrition and supplementation and detoxification says, hey, we work on root cause here, I love them. I cheer them on. I take my kids to a functional medical expert, rarely because they don't need it. But if I do, we go there first. We turn to our oils. We turn to our supplements. We support the body naturally, holistically, functionally. When we add on, we rarely need to. Because when you really go deep into foundational neurology, not functional, foundational neurology, you're going to find the answer is subluxation. And if subluxation is the answer to the chronic illness epidemic in kids, teens, and adults, then the adjustments, plural, we're going to talk all about care planning on this one, neurologically focused, principled, subluxation-based chiropractic care is the answer, foundationally, most importantly, and as I like to say, most potently most effective to get them out of the storm. And when we get done today, just like me leading in this way to you right out of the gates, first 3 slides, you will know that too. Docs, you need to know it. You need to have the certainty. You need to have that conviction, that clarity, that confidence to, 1, speak to it, get those kids and families under care through your conviction, through your certainty, and then your explanation of the neurology to them in their language. And I'll help you do that too, because how did I grow my practice? Through certainty and being able to communicate the neurology and the neuroscience of what we do to other parents, to have them bring their kids in, and other professionals to have them send their patients in. If you just heard me say that and you're like, I wonder if that's what he really did. That's what I really did. That's how we built the world's leading family practice. It doesn't have to do with my haircut, because I don't have hair. It doesn't have to do with my personality, because there's thriving PX family practices all over the world who have the dead opposite personality as I do. It's all fueled upon certainty, communication, and results. Certainty, communication, and clinical results. You tell them, you know the truth, you tell them the truth, you deliver the miracles, they tell everybody alongside you, and you have your dream family practice. If you're writing that algorithm down right now, you have everything you need. You probably have a lot of work to do to develop your certainty. This training is the absolute catalyst to do that. Then we need to work on your communication and your marketing to get those kids and families under care, and those pregnant moms under care, and those new babies under care, and those perfect storm kids under care, and those teenagers under care. And then you need to put a business model around that. Not the training here today, but I can help you with that if you needed to. So the promise by the end of this webinar, masterclass, training, whatever you want to call it, is your certainty is going to go through the roof. You will be a more effective communicator, and we'll teach you what it takes clinically as well. So we call this the perfect storm. When I got started, I'm going to start this section with good news for you. When I got started, not only were that many kids chronically sick, they had all the conditions on. So what we call page 1 of our paperwork, I always teach it this way. Page 1 of our paperwork, it's on the iPad nowadays or on a clipboard, right? Old school. Page 1 is their name and information. Page 2, I actually want to find out first, what have you tried? What have you done? So that asks this question. No, it's question number 5. The first 4 are just kind of their contact info and all that. Please list any drugs, medications, vitamins, herbs, and other things. Now, this right here, where I put /vitamins, /herbs, and I could actually slash a lot more other supplements, everything else that your child is taking, that's an update that it didn't used to say that. It used to just say drugs and medications. And then page 3 is actually where we say, hey, what are the challenges? And that's where they put the condition, symptoms. And what you're going to learn here in a second is that parents today, because we're literally taking this content to the world about subluxation, dysregulation, they will often put now in their goals for care, get my child out of the sympathetic storm, stimulate their vagus, address their subluxation. It's amazing. It's actually happening because you can change your community. You want to write this down? I told you on a neuroscience webinar, but I'm a content machine. I'm literally sitting in the studio where we deliver the Experience Miracles podcast to the world, and we're about to break into the top 200. And mark my words, whenever you watch this, within 3 years, we'll be on Rogan and Huberman. That is God's plan for us. So if you want to change your community, crank out more content in the direction you want to create impact. All right, let me come back to this. When I first got started, and there was no podcast, there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, the world hadn't got the message out about how the genetic theory, the neurotransmitter theory, and medications first is the worst first path that parents could take for their kids. So 80% of my new patients when I started out were on medications. Now, when I would talk to the parents, not just because they were sitting in a chiropractic office, they probably didn't know anything about chiropractic, obviously, till they get started. They didn't want their kids on frickin' Focalin and, Keppra and Ritalin and everything else. They did not want their kids on these medications. Here's what you need to know. They didn't know any other option existed. Lots of them still don't, but thankfully today, in a good way, and then I have we aren't even close to done yet, and if you see this, you're going to be so fired up, which again, we're on a certainty webinar. Now today, only 20% of my patients coming in are medicated. This is across pretty much the whole PX network. We have 1,000 fully trained certified PX doctors nowadays. It all starts with certainty. It's right where you're starting here today. And across the section of all of our practices, multiple countries, all throughout, only about 20, 30, 40% of kids coming in are medicated for neurological conditions. Parents have now moved medications to the last resort. We used to joke, we should answer our phones, welcome to the last resort. Now, I'd have to retrain, we don't use scripts, but if I did, I would retrain my CAs to say, welcome to the second to last resort. We're not last anymore, medications are. Bank that as good news. Hear what I'm saying? That's good news. Parents are shifting towards medicine last, pharmaceutical last. They don't trust them. They don't want it. They save it for last resort. But who's in front of us? Magnesium, zinc, D, his, Cellcore, Pekina, P, B complex, homeopathy, body, bio, PC oil, slippery elm. If that's true, that these supplement, vitamin, holistic, nutrition companies, all of anybody and everybody that looks like that space is blowing up, here's the reason. They are parents searching for anything other than medication. So all they've done is they've found their close cousin, supplementation, and homeopathic, naturopathic, functional, biomedical intervention. Like I said a slide or two ago, they're still taking an outside-in approach, and they're still not addressing or adjusting subluxation. That's all you need to know. That's still happening. What I need you to know is page 2 on our intake paperwork over this last 10 to 15 years has changed rapidly. There's celebration here, and if you're picking up what I'm putting down, there's frustration here, and there's a lot of work for our profession, you and me and we, to still do to get the message out about subluxation, which is why we need to drive it into us with our certainty, conviction, and clarity first. Because the truth is, page 2 has changed from 80% medicated to now only 20%, but 80 to 90% of our patients have already exhausted functional medicine, functional neurology, primitive reflexes, probiotics, neurofeedback. They've literally tried it all. Page 3, you guys, hasn't changed. Page 3 is where it lists all their symptoms, all their conditions, all their challenges. Page 3 has actually gotten worse. Every day in my practice, and yours too, even if you're only seeing a few patients, this is happening to adults. How many of your adult patients have tried every diet change, every new workout, every gym in your community, they've signed up for it, and those moms are still riddled with anxiety and depression, and those dads are still exhausted, and they're still chronically sick. It's the same across the entire family practice population. They've moved from medication to supplementation to natural and nutrition. But the final leap to healing for the entire community is stepping into neurology and the nervous system. So they're still sick, they're just more supplemented, okay? And they don't know where to turn next. As you already know, because I'm sure you're already picking up what I'm putting down and a pace or two ahead of where this slide deck, this training, and where you need to go, you know this, but you know they don't. Whose responsibility is that? Who in your community has been too quiet? Who in your community has been too focused on the spine and back pain and adults and screenings and lunch and learns and voucher ads? I get it. You have school debt, you have your monthly overhead, and you didn't until today or tonight, whenever you're going through this, develop your certainty around pediatrics, perinatal, and family practice yet enough to stand out, speak up, and get the word out enough. That all changes right now. Here's the perfect storm. They don't grow out of it. The perfect storm begins. I want you to see, I know as we go through these slides, I can't necessarily like draw a line on the screen right now, but if you could just kind of metaphorically draw a line from 1 and 2 and go right underneath 2 and separate 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with me. 1 and 2 are the first 1-2 punch double barrel shotgun that literally loads up a child's nervous system into subluxation, dysfunction, dysautonomia, and gets them stuck in the storm. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are just different conditions that kids don't grow out of, they grow into. So what I've seen in practice the entire time, and now is literally proven in meta-analysis, clinical studies, we're going to send them to you, you're going to get our Perfect Storm ARMOUR document throughout this, is 60 to 80% of the time, and it's getting worse until we take over healthcare, perinatal care, fertility care, pediatric care, family care, everything. Chiropractic has to take over so we can reverse these trends and these numbers. But 60, 70, 80% of the time, there's significant stress during the fertility and the prenatal period. You're going to see a paper in a slide or two that it talks about fetal development, That means subluxation sets up shop in the developing child's brain and nervous system before they even show up on the other side out here. Now, number 2 is the one thing I will never shut up about in my entire career. The biggest, what we call moonwalking bear, which is this fun kind of YouTube video that says, hey, the actual root cause of chronic illness in kids happens in a single moment and is hidden right in plain sight. Because it's 85 to 90% of cases or more of the thousands of cases I've taken clinically. I've then taught this to thousands of chiropractors. So we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions of case histories. And again, the meta-analysis and research we can send you shows the biggest thing that the world needs to know about isn't the microbiome. It isn't just gluten. It isn't just dairy. It isn't just antibiotics and vaccinations. It's subluxation induced and triggered because of physical birth trauma, induction, forceps, vacuum, C-section, breech position, cord wrapped. That wreaks havoc on the brainstem. That triggers subluxation, dysregulation, dysautonomia, dysfunction, developmental diastasis, distortion, disruption, desaturation, everything I can teach you. And the course we are going to launch after this masterclass and provide as a new no-brainer for a couple $100 for you. Buy it, get after it. You're going to love this hour. You need to know what I know about how deep into the nervous system subluxation goes. And then it just triggers this sequence and this cascade, which is why we call it the perfect storm, because once a child gets stuck here, nerves that fire together, wire together. And not only is it a perfect storm neurophysiologically, but it's a perfect storm of parents being gaslit and lied to by the conventional pediatrician. Oh, colic, some babies are just fussy. Don't worry, they'll grow out of it. Constipation, oh, it's just this. Here, take some Miralax. Oh, reflux, here's some Prevacid that we've never, Miralax and Prevacid, ever studied on kids? No, not once. So this continues. They don't grow out of colic. They grow into developmental delays, sensory issues, skipped motor milestones, delayed motor milestones, speech delays. So they grow into the tantrum. Oh, don't worry, it's tantrums. They're 2. It's the terrible 2s. It's the terrible 3s. They'll grow out of it. No, that's neurosensory subluxation-induced sympathetic dominance, vagus nerve suppression, and they grow into autism. They grow into ADHD. They grow into anxiety, and they grow into stressed out, exhausted adults. So the truth is, we know that the foundation of healthy neurodevelopment in kids starts with the nervous system. The tone, the connection, the coordination, the balance, and the regulation, and a lot of other words that I could use that mean the same thing. So we, as chiropractors, neuro-focused, subluxation-based, in today's world, that's now called a PX doctor. And literally millions of parents are searching for them because we've blown this up through our public-facing PX Docs platform. You've got to earn your way onto the listing. We're literally generating thousands of new patients for offices all over the world today, pre-educated, pre-committed, ready to sign up for a real care plan and get real chiropractic care. I can't get off on this topic because I'm teaching you neuroscience, but PX Docs is now a nationally, world actually recognized brand of a very specific kind of chiropractic who knows this truth neuroscientifically and then delivers it clinically, okay? So this is where we live because we can actually measure the function of the nervous system and the autonomic nervous system and the vagus nerve. This is what our exam does. So where does that maternal perfect storm stress, fertility and maternal distress? It sets up shop on the nervous system. I'll show you a study next. Where does subluxation anatomically, neurobiomechanically wreak most havoc? Within the neuromotor system. So you know all those chiropractors who want to keep chiropractic to the musculoskeletal system, who want to keep chiropractic to structural pain-based problems? Did they take those classes? Have they ever read an anatomy, physiology, or neurology textbooks? You cannot separate them. The muscular tone, which then moves bones and determines structure, is based upon neurotone. So it's not the motor system. You can't separate the N-E-U-R-O from the musculoskeletal system. Neuromotor function, movement is life for everybody, an adult. Now, for a child, it's a million times more important. It's the actually, even the conventional pediatricians and conventional therapists and everybody in the healthcare world knows that if a child is delayed or skips motor milestones, that's a huge problem for the brain, for the neurodevelopment, right? So where does subluxation, where does birth trauma, misalignment, dyskinesia, disafferentation, I'll show you that next, then sets up dysregulation, dysautonomia. What injures that? Birth trauma, physical stress on the skull, on the spine, on the neck, on the nervous system, neck. That literally happens at birth. And then toxins are piled in. So the world wants to say, oh, if I can just get gluten and dairy out of my kid's head, if I get rid of all their food intolerances, if I can do a functional medicine, stool mapping, blood work, everything else. And so do you see on this one slide that they have been told, oh, it's the gut that's connected to the brain. So if I heal the gut, I'll heal my child's autism, ADHD, neurological challenges. And you're going to meet so many parents who have perfect gut and immune and anti-inflammatory diets and everything else. And they've even done PT, OT, and speech, and they're either plateauing or getting no results, because the foundation of all of this is subluxation and nervous system dysfunction. There is a neuromotor connection, neuro-gut connection, neuroimmune connection, and the nervous system, the brain, really just does what the body tells it to do, which is where we'll get into subluxation, dyskinesia, disafferentation, dysautonomia, dyskinesis, dysregulation. The function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment and coordinate the behavior of all other cells. If you hang with me on this slide, everybody, now, like I told you before, draw a line under 2, and then you'll see that 3, 4, 5, 6 is actually just conditions that the pediatrician punts and calls something different at a different age group, but it's all subluxation, dysregulation the whole time, just called something different. Hang with me on this slide. If I could draw on the slide while you're watching it, if you can separate this E word from everything else, parents awesomely empower them, encourage them, continue to help them do it. It's the best thing ever. We actually have healthier patients environmentally, lifestyle, than we ever have. Trust me, when I got into practice, people were still throwing down medications at McDonald's, all right? And still the amount of people vaccinating going down, the amount of people supplementing going way up. It's amazing. They're still subluxated because they're cleaning up the environment. That's what functional medicine, that's what holistic people, that's what most of those Facebook groups talk about. You go do that, clean up the outside, and the inside will get better. Yes, but no. If the child already went through the perfect storm, and literally chiropractic works inside out, meaning nervous system out, above, down, inside out. If the nervous system went through the storm, fetal and maternal distress, birth trauma, and early childhood trauma, and is subluxated, if the function is dysfunctional of the nervous system, subluxation wreaks havoc on perception. That's dyskinesia, disafferentation, which then wreaks havoc on coordination. So dysregulation, dysautonomia, the function of the nervous system is to coordinate, control, regulate all other cells. So if the input, subluxation, and the coordination, subluxation is in coordination, is altered, then the expression is as well. And that's going to happen even with a perfect environment. Now, thankfully, it's easier to get a kid to heal if they're eating healthy, taking supplements, and not getting vaccinated and medicated. That's awesome. Celebrate it. Hear what I'm saying. I'm saying 2 things can be true this whole time. It's fantastic that the wellness movement has exploded. It's disheartening, frustrating, and it's up to us to tell them that the function of the nervous system is still dysregulated, subluxated, and that's why their child is still sick. So these slides, I'm literally teaching you guys on this masterclass, Chiro to Chiro, the same slides that I teach to our community, and I'll show you that at the end. In those slides are these 3 studies as well. So during the Perfect Storm workshop, which I'm literally going to give here, every single month on repeat for the rest of my life, the 3 studies that'll blow your mind. And I'm not going to necessarily break these down in detail on this because I'm going to give you the next steps, how to get literally 10 plus hours of this training for me for a no-brainer commitment financially. These studies will change your life. When you read them, they're not chiropractic studies. You're a chiropractor. And especially after this masterclass, you will see things differently with the subluxation and the neuroscience of what we do. But on the left, you have the beginning of the storm. This is a review of the vagus nerve and autonomic nervous system development during fetal development, searching for critical windows. Hang on to that word, critical windows. When's the worst time to become subluxated? As early in life. The nervous system is still developing. Do you remember your embryology class? What develops first? The brainstem and the neural tube. So the autonomic central nervous system develops first before they could ever be exposed to toxins or anything else. So this is literally the story of subluxation in fetal development. And what's happening is kids are being born not only in this stressful, chaotic, sympathetic, dominant, overstimulating world, they're actually being born underdeveloped in terms of their vagus nerve and parasympathetic ability to rest, digest, and regulate. That's why so many babies, not only in utero, but especially in the early stages of life, are so neurologically distressed already. And this study is a perfect storm subluxation study. Even though there's not a single mention of chiropractic, when you read it, you will go, this is the greatest chiropractic paper I've ever read. The cerebellum, sensitive periods in autism, literally talks about a term called developmental diaschisis. Diaschisis is a Latin Greek word that means shocked throughout. The medical term around diaschisis means that there can be abnormal function in one part of the brain and the nervous system that is literally being caused by an injury somewhere distally, so either upstream in the nervous system. So this is autism. They've long thought that autism, ADHD, are prefrontal cortex issues, right? Because the prefrontal cortex, socialization, cognition, speech and communication, behavioral regulation. So wouldn't that be where anxiety, ADHD, and autism? So they've done trillions. They've literally spent trillions of dollars doing brain, EEG, MRI, functional MRI studies, looking for autism, looking for depression, looking for ADHD inside the brain. The brain does what the body, especially the brainstem. Brains are built for kids, bottom up, back, forward. Where does subluxation set up shop? Brainstem, neurospinal system. Bottom up, above, down. To really almost could be neurologically, we should say down, above, inside out. So neurologically, subluxation sets up shop, not just in the cerebellum, which is where? In the back of the brain, by the brainstem. Where does birth trauma wreak havoc? Brainstem, vagus nerve, cerebellum, upper cervical, dorsal horn. So this is literally a paper where it introduces this term called developmental diaschisis. And diaschisis is literally a synonymous word for subluxation, because wherever subluxation is doesn't mean the actual symptoms and problem need to be at that location, right? Subluxation wreaks havoc throughout the nervous system, especially when it's in the brainstem, upper cervical, vagus nerve, air traffic control. That's what this paper proves. And then this is an osteopathic study. And these traditional osteopaths, do a manual palpatory exam, and they look for something in this study in healthy newborns called somatic dysfunction. Don't get hung up on the words. Somatic dysfunction would mean the structure, somatic, right? Biomechanical. How do they take out the neuro? You can't. They think osteopaths work on circulatory. So somatic dysfunction in our term would be subluxation, dyskinesia. They found that 99 out of 100 infants had that. Why? Birth trauma, C-section, vacuum, forceps, induction, epidemic. The epidemic of chronic illness has started because the last 2 to 3 generations don't actually have exposure to more toxins. Think back to the 40s and 50s. Ever heard of lead paint, asbestos, and both parents smoking cigarettes at the breakfast table? Toxins aren't new. They aren't good. I'm not removing them from the perfect storm, Stu, and the pie of blame here, the pie graph of blame. But if you really want to understand why kids in your community are so sick, it's not genetic. We know that, right? It's not just gluten. It's not just glyphosate. It's not just vaccinations. And it's not just toxins. The medical system has literally shifted over the last 2 to 3 generations how birth is done, how pregnancy is done. More kids, I'm just going to teach this to you, Tony style, as we round third base on this training. More kids are literally born physically injured, subluxated, neurologically damaged due to birth interventions than ever before. When you look at the charts, and you've all seen them, oh, the more we give vaccinations, oh, they're involved. The more we give antibiotics, oh, they're involved. The more that the world has toxins and preservatives and pesticides in our foods, oh, they're involved. The third, that T sucks. The worst T is emotional trauma during pregnancy and physical trauma during labor and delivery. That kicks the storm in place. That shuts down the vagus nerve. And what is the vagus nerve supposed to do? Process sensory information and control the gut. So the vagus nerve, we now know, and I'm not going to get to, but the polyvagal theory, I love it. I'm in Chicago. Steve Porter's even a Chicago doctor. I've met him and talked to him. He's a researcher, duck, hard to talk to, great, brilliant man with great paper. Polyvagal, don't get caught up on it. It's too confusing for parents. Keep it simple. Only talk about the vagus nerve. Don't weird them out talking about primitive reflexes and polyvagal. We need to, write this down, we need to make chiropractic less weird, more mainstream, more neuroscience, less spinal, less weird, more neurology, okay? Now you're thinking, isn't the polyvagal neurology? Yes, but it's a bit too weird. Isn't primitive reflexes neurology? No, it's a compensation for subluxation. That's the truth. Don't get hung up on that. It doesn't get kids better if you work on primitive reflexes, but leave the subluxation there because you don't adjust deeper, adjust better, adjust more often, and adjust for longer. Primitive reflexes, compensation for subluxation. Disrupted microbiome, compensation for vagus nerve dysfunction. And these papers start to put it together. I'm going to actually focus for the sake of time on the paper on the right. I wish I had my copy where it literally it shows in bold what it is. This is a study where they took rats. Sorry if you love rats, mice, but they were the victims in this study. You know, they help us. They're going to help the world. It's good. So they took 2 groups of rats. By the way, these rats were genetically similar, had the same sleep schedule, same diet, same food, same exercise. Okay. So everything else in this study was controlled. They took one group of rats and they literally stimulated through a little tiny electrode. They stimulated the vagus nerve of the rats. The other group, they did a vagotomy. No vagus nerve stimulation. The group that had vagus nerve stimulation had potently reduced intestinal inflammation. Potently reduced intestinal inflammation. How many webinars have your parents and your patients been on about bone broth, leaky gut, the gut membrane, and all of those things? It's true. The guts of our patients are a mess because they're subluxated first, because the vagus nerve is suppressed due to not just upper cervical subluxation. You do not just stimulate the vagus nerve with an upper cervical. The vagus nerve is the wandering nerve. It goes down through the cervicals, through the CT junction, all the way to the thoracics, all the way down to the TL junction. The vagus nerve is 85% afferent, subluxation, dyskinesia, disafferentation. The vagus nerve, any subluxation anywhere in the top 2/3 of the neurospinal system is likely to trigger excessive sympathetic dominance via not only overstimulating the sympathetic nerves, but also understimulating the vagus nerve. That's dysautonomia. That's dysregulation. That's the story we've been having as we're coming up on the end of the hour. Nervous system stress, dysregulation, dysfunction, i.e. subluxation, wreak havoc on the motor system, the gut, the microbiome. So when everybody says PT, speech therapy, oh, it's a motor, we have low tone and we have spasm, we got to handle that. That's a neurological problem. When the gut, holistic, natural world says the gut shut down, they're not pooping. Yeah, because there's no motility, because the nervous system, back to the quote from Lipton before, the function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment and coordinate the behavior of all other cells. Hang with me. The function of the nervous system controlling all these other cells, all other cells. Cells put together are systems. Right now, the biomedical functional world is telling patients, yes, don't chase symptoms. They're just chasing systems. They're trying to restore the gut, but the gut is being controlled by the nervous system. In Stevenson, the chiropractic textbook, we know that there's primary functions completely under control of innate intelligence, aka the nervous system. Therefore, if subluxation is in the way, the nervous system can't do these primary functions. When you apply the primary functions to the gut, there is motility, move things along. Absorption, get good things in. Assimilation, take the good things, magnesium, zinc, serotonin, whatever, take it in, and then assimilation means send it where it needs to go. You need to go to these cells, you need to go all under the control of the nervous system. And then the fourth primary function of gut function controlled by the nervous system is elimination, detoxification. How many of your parents and patients, or even you maybe took these seminars and you're focusing more on gut health with your patients than you are nervous system health and subluxation? Enough. This training is going to change your life so you can change theirs. This is the answer. It's in the nervous system. And what throws it off is the perfect storm. We have to actually tell the people the truth. If we're going to say we're addressing the root cause, well, then that's the nervous system. It starts there, it stays there. That's the foundation. You are a foundational neurologist, not a functional neurologist, okay? Functional is kind of still this medical term. It's like we're not medical, but we're not. Chiropractic isn't that. Chiropractic isn't medical. Chiropractic isn't natural. Chiropractic is foundational neurological, okay? We have to get results by doing things in the right order. Before we can add all these supplements and mess around with neurointegrative therapies, we have to obliterate subluxation. And if you did that and that alone, because that's all I do in my clinic, And we literally, this week, getting ready for this masterclass, the last 3 new patients I onboarded don't live in this country. They're not coming here to get more supplements. They've already done it. They're not coming here to buy a laser. They're coming here to get their kids adjusted better and more often at a more foundational level for miraculous results than anywhere else. And that's what we teach our PX doctors to do. Address and fix the foundation first, and then that child can start to respond to nutritional intervention, supplementation, detoxification, PT, OT, vision therapy. You don't do it all at once and expect it to work. That's what I was told. All my other certifications and diplomate training didn't teach me any of this. They flirted surface level with subluxation. Oh, you're a chiropractor. You adjust 2 times a week for 6 weeks and blah, 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 blah. Then we'll add everything else in. Everything else got in the way. And I had to figure out this neurology I'm teaching on this masterclass through trial and error. I had to literally sit across from parents and literally see their kids not get better because I did too much for them when I could have just done, just as a minimizing word that we're maximizing on this training, I could have just done chiropractic, done more often, care plan, more better, deeper, more advanced adjusting and clinical skill sets, and done less other interventions that get in the way of the nervous system getting better. And that's what we did for this kid. I'm going to hit play on this. This is a child who came to us as part of our intensive program. She had seen another chiropractor 2 times a week for 6 weeks, clicked around with the activator, messed around with primitive reflexes, told her to do these at-home exercises, added a bunch of supplements, didn't do a damn thing. Then, sorry, I'm on one. I've been on one the whole time. I'm literally there right now. And I'm going to deliver this to you with truth. I'm going to launch the 12D neuroscience course that we've never done before. But let me show you a miracle before I show you that program. This child had tried chiropractic, weak, watered down, distracted chiropractic. This child had done conventional medicine, Miralax, medications, antibiotics. This child had done PT 3 times a week, OT, orthotics, kinesiotaping, everything. She couldn't take her first step. She was about to have her 3rd birthday. She had no words because she had no gross motor development first. You got to get the big muscles to get the little muscles. She was constipated. She was sick all the time, and she had started to develop seizures because her nervous system was such a wreck. So mom's major goals were obviously to get rid of all that, but mom knew enough about neurodevelopment that if they could just get her walking, they could get her nervous system back on track developmentally. And mom, through listening to all of our content and connecting to the stuff we teach to them, which is this stuff I'm teaching to you, and you need to learn, then teach to them, then provide to them. Mom found us and wanted help. And this is Teagan's scans, insight scans, thermal scan, counter torque, occiput C1, C2, C3, all in counter opposition, worst kind of subluxation. Her total energy, that should be 150 to 200, 400. So twice, 2 times as much, literally sympathetic dominance. Pattern, that should be 85. Symmetry should be 85. So dysregulated, disorganized, and asymmetrical. This kid had the worst subluxations. What was her birth? Breech position, failed vacuum extraction, emergency C-section. None of this is genetic for Teagan. It's birth trauma. And you can see it. Look at that upper cervical subluxation. So because her brainstem, her cerebellum, her vagus nerve, her vestibular, her proprioceptive function, all literally destroyed due to dyskinesia, subluxation, disafferentation, disorganization, dyskinesis. This EMG scan shows dyskinesis. This shows regional dysautonomia. And we use HRV2 for global dysautonomia. That's why she is struggling. That's where she was before she started. This is after 6 very specific, twice a day, neurotonal chiropractic adjustments. Look at how the upper cervical cleared. That is on Thursday. She started care on a Monday. She was walking on a Thursday. This kid is now, I can't remember if she's 1st grade, 2nd grade. This kid is completely developmental delayed free, seizure free, constipation free, chronic ear infections free, antibiotics free, Miralax free. This kid is thriving. You'd never know she was there. She had done everything else under the sun. And before I'm done, I got to tell you, this conviction that comes through me is because all day, every day, I not only see those miracles in our practice at PwC, like with Teagan, but I have a son who was born 6 weeks early, physical, traumatic, the worst you could ever imagine, brainstem injury, wasn't supposed to live till age 1. If he did, he had a 1% chance of living, here's how they said it, 99% chance of living with cerebral palsy, epilepsy, autism. The medical doctors, and they only said 99% because it would have sounded pretty harsh to say 100, but that's what they meant. He was never going to walk, he was never going to talk, and he was never going to be healthy. This picture right here is Oliver getting upper cervical adjustments on his very first day of life. He is a medical miracle. He would require 3 surgeries, heart-lung bypass intervention. Medicine saved his life. Chiropractic fully restored it. Emphasis on the word life. Second, equal emphasis on the word fully. As of getting this masterclass and doing the 12D course, it is literally cross-country season as he literally, at 16-year-old, runs a 5K under 16 minutes. If you know what that is as a 16-year-old, that is the power of chiropractic. He's living his best life, and that means one thing for you. The neuro age of family practice is here. Let me fully round third base, give you the action steps. We're not done. Give me 5 to 10 more minutes. Here's where you go next. All in, full speed, like you're Oliver running a freaking cross-country course, mowing people down, watching miracles literally happen. This is here now. There is so much more to chiropractic than back pain. It's our fault if we don't have the family practice of our dreams. Now that might sound harsh as I close this thing down, but I'm simply right now at this moment speaking to you because you are where I was. I was Palmer trained, spinal trained, rehab trained, musculoskeletal trained, back pain trained. Straight leg raiser. I was ready to find that discogenic pain and rid the world of said maladies. That was in my head because that was my only training. In my heart, because I'm a dad and someone who's always wanted to serve kids and full families, I was frustrated. I built $1 million practice on the standard back pain. I know you know me as the pediatric, perinatal, and nervous system focused perfect storm guy. If you'd have known me from 2007 to 2009 and come and shout at our practice, we got up to about 25-35% kids, which was like somehow better than, if you want a family practice, the average family has 2 to 3 kids, you actually got to be over 50%. If you're really, truly a family practice, you're not actually there until you're 50% pediatrics and babies and pregnant moms. That's just the math. That's how it computes. And so I had this $1 million practice. We had this great life that came from it. And do you know what it was mostly? Thankfully, not entirely. I had at least a little bit of start into pediatrics and perinatal. It was mostly dependent upon me going to the gym and doing classes and doing screenings, me advertising on the radio, me taking in back pain patients, trying, and I was pretty good at it, but I'm a whole lot better now, shifting the conversation onto the nervous system and trying to get them to bring their kids in. And I somewhat kind of succeeded, but not enough to not be dependent upon back pain patients and Blue Cross Blue Shield. And that kept me awake at night. I was so frustrated. I didn't despise that practice. I just had this never-ending burning desire and deep down knowledge, innate thought flash, BJ would call it. I knew there was a true, all cash, true actual family practice waiting for me. And that was 10 to 15 years ago before it even became on fire in the marketplace. They want the doctor who's ready to tell them the truth. Guess what? You love the truth. Why'd you sign up for chiropractic instead of medical school? Because you found the truth. You couldn't do anything other than it. They love doctors who empower, who take the time to listen, who have compassion, empathy. You have that because you're a chiropractor without even trying. This practice sucks. Even when it's financially secure. Why do you think people chase side hustles and spend so much time on their pontoon? Because they hate back pain practice, even if it's financially successful. I did anyways. This one's crazy freaking fun, high impact, high volume, high income. The neuro age is here. They are shifting and sprinting towards us and searching for us. The vagus nerve is now trending on TikTok. That's the conversation you need to be having. They're literally searching for us. They're firing modern medicine. They're looking for the root cause, and they're actually searching on Instagram and Facebook for the vagus nerve, for dysregulation. So if you're talking about the supplements, they ain't finding you. If you're talking about the spine, they're not finding you. If you're talking about primitive reflexes, they're not finding you. You can literally actually today talk about the nervous system, subluxation, dysregulation, and blow up your practice as a result. I told you you're on a neuroscience webinar. You are. You just took a marketing webinar and a branding webinar. You just took a communication webinar and you didn't even know it. It's working all around the world. This doctor right here, we went and did our certification a couple months ago in Australia. This doctor literally, this is his website. He was in back pain practice for 30 years, did fine, made tons of money, but his heart and soul wanted to serve kids and families through the nervous system. So he followed the PX Docs way, and all he did was literally put nervous system dysregulation and the insight scans on his website. Look at this. You click on our services, neurologically focused chiropractic care, nervous system scanning. Click on most people's websites. The whole pediatric tab is buried under 92 other things they do, which means they don't do it at all. And moms are smart and they'll never go to that practice. If you try and be everything to everyone, you're nothing to no one. When you focus entirely on nervous system dysregulation and that's your only service, this doc, Dr. Ashley and his crew, literally has a waiting list of new patients 6 weeks long. We're trying to send them 2 associates at the same time, and it's all nervous system. Nobody's coming in for back pain. Nobody's coming in wanting their spine cracked, massage, decompression, and have their insurance pay for it. He is literally building $1 million practice in under a year, and it's entirely focused on the nervous system. Same with Dr. Tim and the Being crew, same with Dr. Mike and that crew all around the world. Parents are ready. What does it take? You need to have the certainty to get to these 3 things. Miracles are based upon the optimal care plan, finding the primary and major subluxation, not compensations, not vestibular issues, visual oculomotor issues, primitive reflexes. Those are compensations. If you pull the pin on those first, you'll make kids worse, not better. Choose the optimal care plan. It's got to be high frequency, longer duration than you ever learned. You've got to learn how to find primary and major subluxations. That's the hardest thing to do in kids, but when you master it, it's unbelievable. And you've got to choose the right technique. This is why kids are so sick. Our final slides match the first slides. They are stuck in sympathetic dominance. They then progress into developmental delays and neurological distortion, disruption, and confusion. And most kids you're seeing today are neurologically exhausted. These last slides are literally what we teach in depth inside that course and inside our certification seminar. And that's where PX goes next. This right here, burn this into your action steps. This is how you get the family practice of your dreams. You spend the next most obsessed, focused season of your life developing your certainty and your clinical skill sets. When you do that, the effectiveness of your communication and marketing, there's no scripts that builds a family practice. Moms, hear a script all about the spine, and hey, if you get a cut on your arm and you put a Band-Aid on, is the Band-Aid that heals it, or is it? No, that's weird to them. When you have certainty and you're known for results and you speak their language, which now today, science is the language of today. Specifically, neuroscience is the language of today. When you build your branding, your marketing, and your communication literally on what you learned on this masterclass, same as you've built your clinical protocols on not the spine, but the nervous system, not compensations, primitive reflexes, but subluxation, the primary foundational issue. When everything you do after you develop your certainty comes because of your certainty, your practice explodes. That's exactly what happened for Dr. Nick. Standard, scripted, screenings, practice. It was never in his heart and soul. So even when they got up to high volume, doing the screenings, the spinal care packages, the soft wave, he was miserable. Not only were they just barely getting by financially, but he was miserable in his heart and soul as a chiropractor, invested in PX, launched a new brand on through PX, and now literally has $1 million practice, moving into their dream home with his family. Dr. Adam opened 2 different traditional practices, one out east, and he came back home to Indiana, tried it again. Both failed because they were spinal-based, outdated, discovered PX through another doc. You'll never meet an all-in, incredible human more than Dr. Adam. Their whole brand, their whole clinical model, their whole certainty. And within 12 months, he's seeing $350 a week. This number has gone way up because he's increased his fees to where he needs to be. $50K plus, hiring an associate, living the dream life. This is Tennessee, just to the south. Dr. Lauren worked in a different standard chiro model for 15 years, has a perfect storm kiddo, needed help, found us, found a webinar like this, signed up for PX, full credit to Dr. Lauren, went all in, and now she's actually in the 300 visit range, collecting over $500,000, building this incredible team, living her dream life. What we've done right now is we've seen what's working, not just for myself and our practice, but what has now worked for thousands of PX doctors to explode their all cash, thriving family practices. And we took all the best stuff we had to teach and we put it into one hyper-focused neuroscience program and course that I've never launched before. What did you learn from us that moved the needle most? And then we packaged it into a 12D neuroscience course that will move your certainty and your conviction and your clarity and your clinical confidence and your ability to communicate to a level you didn't even know existed, and the level you're certainly likely not at now. Hey, Dr. Tony here, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to the Family Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're looking for more content from us, you can absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, watch exclusive episodes on YouTube, and dive deep into the articles and blogs on our website. All of this is linked in today's show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.